Hey friends, welcome back to my little cozy corner of the internet. So today I'm going to be talking about the very well-known, seen in every store it seems, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Aveyard? So this is kind of going to be a little bit of a rant. I have a love-hate relationship with this book and I cannot decide if I loved it or if I hated it. I was going to film this in front of my cutie Christmas tree that we got yesterday, but it is pure overcast outside and I have zero natural light in my living room, so sorry. So first of all, there's absolutely going to be spoilers in this video. So to kind of recap what this book is about, you have the reds, which are people with red blood, and the silvers, which are the people with silver blood. The silvers are considered more worthy, I guess. The reds are kind of servants to the silvers. The reds live in like slum neighborhoods. The stilts, they're just not very well taken care of. Some of them even live in a town that literally has not even seen sunlight because it's so polluted. The silvers, on the other hand, they're all very wealthy, very well off, and they live in like a beautiful capital city. They also have really cool abilities. Some of them have the power of fire or water or plants, controlling metal, reading minds, and even taking away other people's powers, or I should say abilities. Now, this is based on the character Mare Barrow. We'll get to her in a minute. She is a red. She meets the prince of the silvers. His name is Cal, and for some reason they connected really well the first time that they met as she tried to rob him. All the reds, when they turn 18, they're supposed to go to war. She's pretty close to that age, and the only way that you don't have to go to the war is if you apprentice with somebody at the palace and you get a job there. Otherwise, you're being shipped off when you're 18. And Mare steals from people for a living, so she's gonna go to the war. Well, Cal, the prince, meets her, and then the next day she's sent off to the palace and now has a job there as a servant. Now, mind you, while she's there, she just falls into all of a sudden knowing that she also has abilities, which is supposed to be impossible because she has red blood. So the king is like, okay, we don't want reds to think that they're special, so we're gonna lie and tell everybody that you're actually silver, but you've been raised by the reds because your father was a silver general and he died in war and you were raised in the stilts with the red community. He betroths her to the other prince, Maven, who is Cal's younger brother, kind of lives in Cal's shadow. So the book is her going through training to basically learn how to be a royal silver and learn how to control her powers. Her power is electricity. And then Cal and Maven's power is both the power of like fire, being able to control fire. Now what makes Mare's ability unique, not only is she red-blooded, but she can just summon the power within herself. Everybody else, they have to be around that specific element to be able to control it. But Cal and Maven wear bracelets that have some kind of like heat in them, so they can just summon the heat as long as they're wearing those bracelets. Mare decides to join a rebellion called the Scarlet Guard, which their whole goal is to kind of overthrow the silvers to make reds and silvers equal, or at least on kind of like a similar playing field. Now the reds and the silvers, like I said, they're gonna be putting the reds on the front line in this war, which, by the way, we don't know why it's really happening. The war's been going on for over 100 years of the reds just being on the front line in this war that is kind of complicated, not really sure why it's happening, at least it doesn't make sense to me, and there's really no point. It's just costing the kingdom millions, I'm assuming, and killing reds, which I assume is probably their main goal, and just dumb. But I digress. Okay, so now we're gonna get on to my thoughts. First, I want to say that if this is ever made into like a show or a movie, I would love to play Mare. Solely because this role seems like it would be so much fun because there's a lot of action in this book. So please, if you know if this is being made into a show or a movie, give me a call so that I can play Mare, because this just sounds like so much fun. Now I'll start off by saying that I appreciate the world building. I did not expect this to be like futuristic. It very much reminds me of Divergent and Hunger Games, where they have like technology and like vehicles and all of that. I did not expect that. It kind of ruined it for me at first, but then like I kind of like got used to it. Now for a cast, like I was saying, I would play Mare, right? And then I feel like King Tiberius, which is the King of the Silvers, would be Hugh Jackman for some reason. I don't know why. Alara, his queen, would probably be Charlize Theron or Teresa Palmer. I imagine Timothy Chalamet as Maven, who is the younger prince, and I could not figure out anybody who would be Cal. At first I thought Ben Barnes, but then I had to get that out of my mind because he's already in Shadow and Bone. And then I thought Theo James, but then I had to stop doing that because he's too tan, and like the Silver Bloods are supposed to be like kind of pale because their blood is silver. So it just kind of kept changing in my mind. Not really sure. And then Evangeline, who Cal is betrothed to, who has the power of metal. I imagined the girl who plays Octavia in the 100. Her name is Maria, I think. I can't remember her last name. I imagined Robert Carlyle, I think his name is, who plays Rumpelstiltskin in Once Upon a Time, as Julian. And Alex Pettifer for Killorn. Like I said, I appreciate the world building. It was great. I wish I would have had a little bit more of a physical description for the palaces. Like, she kept saying diamond glass. I'm like, cool. Like the walls, or like the floor, or like just the separating. Like, it just, I had a hard time imagining where they were, which was annoying because that's like really important for me. Now that's pretty much one of the only positive things that I have to say. Okay, Mayor Barrow is the worst character. First, I just have to say, incredibly selfish. So her best friend, Killorn, who is the most annoying person, annoying little boy ever, he's getting conscription, so he's gonna have to go to the war, and she's like, So she has to like come up with all this money to pay the Scarlet Guard to take Killorn out of the stilts. She takes her younger sister, Gisa, which by the way, we don't know much about Mare's family. Like, they come up in the beginning, and then once later on she goes and sees them after she's living in the palace, and there's like no depth to any of them. None at all. No depth to these characters whatsoever. She takes her younger sister Giza, and they go into the palace because Giza is an apprentice for like seamstress stuff. Giza is the one who ends up stealing instead of Mare because she doesn't do anything by herself, and Giza gets her hand smashed and her career is basically ruined. And Mare's first thought wasn't like, oh no, my poor sister just ruined her life. Her first thought was like, my parents are gonna blame me. I'm always the one who causes issues. Excuse me? Like, maybe be a little bit empathetic for your sister. Like, so selfish. Like I said, she doesn't make any decision for herself. She has no backbone. She didn't stand up to the king or queen or anybody else for that matter the whole time she was in the palace. How she found out she had a power was so ridiculous. I mean, what I would have thought sounded cool was like, maybe she's in a heated conversation with Cal or Maven or the queen, and then all of a sudden like her powers just like surge, you know what I mean? No. She is a servant her first day there at the palace. She's watching like all these girls compete to like win one of the princes, and she falls into the arena and falls onto like the barrier that's made out of electricity, and it electrocutes her and she doesn't die, and that's how she finds out that she has powers. I'm sorry, but that's like the most boring way to find out that you have super abilities. Like, that could have been so much cooler. She reminds me of Bella Swan from Twilight in a way, because I'm confused why everybody likes her. Killorn, her best friend, is in love with her. Cal is in love with her. Maven is in love with her, and I'm like, why? The only quality of Mare that I kind of like is that she's witty. So she has like a lot of banter with Cal and Maven, and it's kind of clever and cute, but other than that, like, she sucks. She kind of sucks. She keeps talking about how she wants to do stuff for the red community and then expects everybody else to do it. I also don't appreciate that the romance between Cal and Mare wasn't built at all. They danced a few times and then they kissed. Like, it should have been built up. There should have been more, and there wasn't. Mind you, I don't think the romance should have been like the main focus of the book. They built more of a romance between Mare and Maven than they did between Mare and Cal, which was obnoxious because, spoiler alert, like I said, Maven ends up being the bad guy in the end, and while it was predictable, at the same time it was still kind of a shock in how it all came about, because Maven and Mare both joined the Scarlet Guard, which is that rebellious group to come against the kingdom. So it was kind of predictable in that sense, because they kept saying things like, anyone can betray anyone, or he's just like his mother, and by the way, his mother freaking sucks. She has the ability to read minds and control people's minds, and she is so rude and aggressive and mean, and like that's a good thing. I love that they made her like that because it's like powerful and it's a good villain in the story. But I don't know, just the way that she doesn't hold Maven accountable for anything is kind of annoying. Like, if you're gonna be a supervillain, you should be training your children to be supervillains and not like soft and lame. I did like Julian, who was the guy who mentored Mare, and he did have an interesting backstory. I would like to hear more about it. It was annoying, his flip-floppiness between I don't want to rebel and then like, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice everything so that you can rebel. So that was kind of weird, but that's okay. I still kind of liked his character. He was interesting. I love his kind of like harshness with Mare, almost in a way that was very much appreciated because she needs it. So in the Scarlet Guard, the leader is Farley, who is this blonde girl who has a cool scar. Absolutely no depth to her character at all. She is just one emotion all the time. She has no personality. She isn't vulnerable whatsoever at any point in the story, which is obnoxious, and that makes me not want to support her cause. She's just running off of like anger and bitterness. She has no passion to be the leader of the Scarlet Guard. I mean, they plan a few attacks and like there was no passion behind what she was saying. It was more like, I'm BA and you're gonna listen to me. And it's like, okay, but why? Why are you passionate about this? What is your story? What have you been through? And there was none of that. It made it so hard for me to want to support the Scarlet Guard and their cause, even though the end goal obviously is a good thing. You want the Reds and the Silvers to be on an equal playing field, but she displayed no passion. Okay, so Cal. I like Cal because he is very committed to his cause. He's the future king, and you know, he's very committed to being a soldier, to be protective of his kingdom, and that's fantastic. Mind you, he does say things like, you know, I wish things were different. I wish the Reds were, you know, not doormats to the Silvers, but then he doesn't like bring any passion to that either. He doesn't talk about future potential plans to change things or like secretly changing things, and that's annoying. I wish we would have gotten more from Cal. We barely got anything. Like I said, I almost found myself rooting, well honestly I did find myself rooting for Maven throughout the book, for the romance, for him to be king, all that, because there was more between Mare and Maven than there was between Mare and Cal, and it was annoying. It bothered me. More of a romance was built between them, more dialogue came from Maven, more passion came from Maven, and okay, I need to calm down. The ending, when he had to, well, when the queen, Alara, forced him to kill his father, I was devastated for him. I think that was a fantastic twist because Cal is so committed to the kingdom, so committed to being a soldier, so committed to his father, and then for that to be like his demise, like his fall, was fantastic. I loved that. I'm hoping that something similar will happen to Maven in the next book. I did appreciate the epilogue at the end too. If you didn't read the epilogue, you should, because it brings back the story of Shade and how he also has the abilities that the Silvers have, his power being teleportation. So I really liked that they kind of brought him back at the end, because in the beginning of the book they tell you that he's dead, and in the end obviously you find out that he's not. Again, I just wish there was more depth to these characters. I mean, like, one of the people in the Scarlet Guard, Tristan, was murdered, and I didn't care. I did not care because there was no depth to his character, there was no depth to the Scarlet Guard, nothing. So, like, aside from the world building, I appreciated Cal, the Queen, Maven, kind of, not really. And that's about it. The one other cool part was like the secret little town that the Reds have, because they control all the technology, and they manipulated the radiation machines to say that like this part of the city was destroyed from the war, you can't go there, the radiation will kill you, but realistically they're harboring Reds there who have escaped conscription. So that was a really cool addition to the story. I liked that a lot. I would have liked to hear more about that, the people there, how the environment is, but again, nothing. We got nothing. That basically sums up my thoughts on Red Queen. There was no character depth at all to anybody, pretty much except for the Queen and a little bit of Julian. Mare is just, she doesn't do anything for anybody else. She kind of just lets Maven take the lead or let Cal take the lead, and she doesn't actually do anything for anybody. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I can't tell if I love or hate this book because I appreciated some of the twists at the end. Even though some of it was predictable, I did appreciate a lot of it. I appreciated the story. I think the story was great. The ending action scene was fantastic when Cal and Mare were fighting like the 4 or 5 silvers, whatever it was. That part was great. I read through that so flippin' fast because the action was fantastic. Although I do think it's a little bit ridiculous that the water people can like defeat the fire people. I mean, that doesn't really make much sense to me, but okay. It didn't make sense to me either how like the lead prisoner guard, the one that like can take away your powers, how he was so easily killed. I mean, I called it that was gonna happen, but at the same time, like if you have the one dude that's like taking away Mare's powers, wouldn't you like have him behind a wall to protect him and not leave him out in the open to get killed? I'm gonna read the rest of the series because I want to know more about what happens next. I will say that I did like the story. I really did. I don't know what I would score it out of 5, honestly. I think that the concept was really great. I think that the world building was really great. The twists were really great. It's just the lack of character depth and character building is what ruined it for me. So I can't say if I love it. I can't say if I hate it. I don't know. I did read it pretty quickly because I did like the story so much, but like I just needed more. I needed more from Cal. I needed more with their relationship. I needed more with the Scarlet Guard. I needed more character depth, and I think that too much was spent on her whole princessy training and not enough on the people she was training with, their backgrounds and their stories. So I don't know. I did like it. But I have issues. I have issues. So I just don't really know what else to say. I'm hoping that we'll get more information on the Scarlet Guard, that we'll get more information on people's backgrounds, especially because Julian's background sounded very interesting because Julian's sister was the previous queen and she was, from what it seems like, the current queen, Alara, killed her. So that's what it seems like. A lot of it wasn't said directly, but I'm curious to know the backstory, and I'm looking forward to more of a romance being built between Mare and Cal, and hopefully some character development with Mare because her decisions are just very poor and her follow-through is awful. And I'm excited to see Maven as more of a villain though. I am. He played the villain very well in the end when he kind of turned on Cal and Mare in the throne room with the king and the queen. I was kind of like, he just played a really good villain. I mean, he's kind of like a soft, mushy when like he had to face Cal in the cell before the whole event in the arena. It was kind of like, so you sounded BA earlier and now you're kind of sounding a little bit weak, so let's work on that. So yeah, overall I do think I enjoyed the book. I think I liked it. Plot-wise, it was good. Thank you guys for being here. I'm sorry this was so long. I talked so much, but I had to get all of my feelings out. So again, thanks for being here, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!